This dog is not trained, right?
Yeah.
This dog does not know any commands, right? He doesn't know sit. He doesn't know down. He doesn't know come. He doesn't know stay.
Nope.
He doesn't know how to, well, he kind of is learning how to walk on a leash, but like he doesn't
Yeah.
know heel, he doesn't know his name, frankly, at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people go into having puppies with the expectation they should know all these things. And they're like, oh, we're going to teach the dog all of these things by starting to just use them in our day-to-day, which is the absolute worst thing that you could do, right? Because
Yeah.
immediately, if I were to start throwing out commands all the time to this dog, what would happen is I would teach him at a very young age, at 14 weeks, I would teach him that my words are irrelevant because none of them have any sort of meaning to them, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to do here is I'm going to break down basically everything that I did with this dog in the first week,
Okay.
right? Well, and forgive me, my memory isn't what it used to be, but I will try to recall everything it was, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, last Thursday, we got this dog. She came for the meet and greet, brought him in. So he originally they had pulled him from like I said, like an Amish kind of situation, right? He was like living in like a horse stall basically with a couple of brothers and sisters that he had. And it was him and it was his sister, right? And the foster, Mary Jo, had him for a little bit, and then she got his sister a couple days into it, I believe. So litter mates, obviously, right? Not a good idea to have them together typically for this long. Typically, once you start getting past like 10 weeks or so, you really want to start separating them because they will start developing those like attachment issues with each other that cause litter mate syndrome that we see as a big problem later on in life. Right. And honestly, some of the issues that we're seeing with him right now, I would almost equate to the fact that he was with that sister for as long as he is. Right. So she brings him in. She had both of them, actually.
Good.
And I needed to see how this dog was going to be in a new environment, and I wanted to see how he was going to do with my dogs. Right. I wanted to kind of assess his overall temperament.
Yeah.
Right. So I had my dogs out in the living room downstairs. I had them all in downstays. Right. I wish I took I told myself when I get a puppy that I was going to videotape fucking everything to be able to show everybody everything.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I don't think I videotaped anything yet so
Yeah.
far, right? And there's been some shit that I'm like, man, like this would be cool if I
Yeah.
had that on video because it's really good, instructional, stuff like that. Whatever. So all my dogs ran downstairs when she came in the house, right? And what I did was I had her come in. I had her set both puppies on the ground, and I kind of had the living room, dining room area blocked off, right? So had them set on the ground, let him just kind of run amok. First things that I noticed was actually a little interesting. So he seemed really confident coming in. Like he came in full of energy, running around, running up to the other dogs and stuff like that. And the sister seemed pretty timid, right? She seemed like she was definitely shying away, stuff like that. And then over the course of like the hour that she was here or so, started to kind of loosen up and then seemed like she was definitely like a clinger to people, right? But he seemed very much kind of like he was doing his own thing. He wasn't as interested in just running up to all the people and stuff.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So whatever, he kind of, once he sniffed the dogs and realized they weren't doing anything, kind of, did his own thing, went off, sniffed around, stuff like that. He didn't seem like he was overly interested or pushy in them, right? But like I said, him and his sister were pretty close together. They kind of did the same thing together like the whole time, right? So whatever, seemed fine. Told her, we want to keep the dog for a couple days, kind of see how it goes. So she's getting ready to leave. And I put a leash on him, right? And she's walking out with the sister, and he goes to try to pull towards the sister. He feels the leash and absolutely flipped his shit, dude. Like screaming, bucking at the end of the leash, back flipping, fucking going bonkers, right?
Dang.
And I looked at her, I was like, has he ever been on a leash before? She said, nope. Never, right? So we got a 14-week-old dog now that's never been on a leash before, right? Again, big issue that we'll see a lot of people make is they carry these dogs around everywhere, right? And what happens is a leash is a very abnormal thing to dogs, right? You put it on them, and it's a man-made thing that holds them back from stuff. It's something where they need to understand this concept of giving into the pressure, understanding how to move with it and stuff. And we think this is just an inherent thing that dogs should know how to do, where frankly, a lot of young dogs do not have a good idea of this. And we coddle to it by, again, when they put the brakes on or stop doing something, we can just pick them up, right? This is a small dog right now, so I can just pick him up and carry him around if I need to, right? So whatever. I told myself, listen, all right, I'm not worried about this right now. So I just kind of dropped the leash, let him do his thing for a minute. And I started off by, for maybe a half an hour or so, let him just drag the leash around. I wanted to get him used to the weight of this thing, feeling something around his neck and not being quite as averse to it.
Yeah.
Right? So she leaves, and I could equate some of this maybe to like his sister was leaving, she was leaving, and he had never been on a leash before. That's kind of what was going through my head initially, right? So I put my other dogs away. We put them outside for a little bit. And, I mostly did that because anytime you have a new dog that's making a huge ruckus like that, especially a small dog screaming, yelping, bucking, stuff like that, that could really trigger like a deeply ingrained kind of prey drive thing in your dogs. And this is stuff you want to be aware of, right? Because that can cause a problem later on. These dogs don't have a relationship with each other. They're seeing this thing showing all these signs of weakness and arousal, and that could cause dogs to want to really pounce on that, right? So put them away, had the leash. I need to get ready to go to work here in a couple minutes, right? So I was like, all right, well, we are starting our first official leash pressure session, right? So I had a regular 6-foot slip lead on this dog, right? And we start the basics, right? And the basics are not leash walking, not heeling, not anything like that. The basics are understand what to do when you feel pressure on your neck, right? So I hold this leash, grab the handle of it, I walk until the dog feels pressure on the collar, and then I just stand there, right? And I post myself up, and he pulls against it, starts doing the bucking, doing the little yelping, tries to run left or tries to run right, tries to figure out what he needs to do. And finally, he turns and he gives way, right? And he takes a couple steps towards me. Good, right? Praise him up, right? Tell him he's doing a good job. Let him know you like it, right? Repeat that process, right? Little by little, I mean, he was still pretty shitty with it at this point. Like, he wasn't doing too great with it, right? But he was starting to, over time, like, I could tell the fight was getting a little less and less each time.
Yeah.
Listen, we get to the stairs to go down to the garage and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm not even crossing this bridge yet, right? I'm not worried about it yet. So I kind of pick him up. I'm managing that for right now, right? Until I have time to kind of designate a full session of that. And load him up in the car, go to take him to work, right? Put him in the crate in the back of my car, screams like a maniac in the crate the entire time we're headed to the shop. Again, new situation. He's been in crates before, but not in a car maybe. He's moving around, stuff like that. Whatever. Made a ruckus, So we get to the shop. Same deal. Get him in. I do the leash pressure work all the way into the front of the building. Then we have stairs going up to the second floor. Again, not kind of worried about that right now. Pick him up, carry him up, stick him in a crate. Same deal. Freaks the fuck out in the crate for like 30 minutes probably, and then finally kind of chilled out a little bit, right? But I'm not avoiding any of these big problems yet, right? So I've noticed two major things right off the rip in day one with this dog, right? One, he definitely needed work in the crate.
Yeah.
Two, he definitely needed work with the leash, right? Outside of that, he didn't seem too bad with jumping. He didn't seem too bad with mouthing or anything like that. I tried to manage those things when I did see them. Obviously, I didn't, if he tried to jump on me, I quickly got him off. If he mouthed at me, I quickly stopped interacting with him. And a lot of this initially, we're using, you want to get into the science of learning, we're using negative punishment for these types of things, right? So I'm removing something, my interaction, in order to discourage these behaviors, right? If I'm petting him and he starts jumping on me, I completely stop interacting with him altogether, right? Removing the reinforcement behind him jumping, right? If he's biting at me, I stop interacting with him altogether, right? And initially, your goal with young dogs is to be able to stop these behaviors with as little aversion as possible, right? You don't want to have to go in with really firm corrections right off the rip, right? So by doing those types of things, you could at least begin to set the tone of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And that gets into other things that people typically will do wrong. Is when they see their dog start doing these types of things, they tell them, no bite, this, that, right? And they're like kind of interacting with the dog the whole time that they're trying to discourage it.
Yeah.
So the dog has no idea what no and no bite is and stuff like that. They just know that, wow, I'm doing this behavior and I'm still getting attention right now, right?
Yeah.
So step number one, guys, again, just cut the interaction altogether. Literally get up and walk away when the dog starts doing that.
Yeah.
And I know this is harder as the dog gets older, obviously. And as the dog gets older, you need to resort to corrections. But I'm talking if you get an 8-week-old dog in, the dog has no pre-associations with getting away with anything, right? This is arguably their first time they've ever tried to do these behaviors. If you start the process teaching it that way, it typically will go away pretty quickly. Right? Like, he really, like, after the first couple of days, like, he doesn't really jump, Like, he doesn't jump on anybody. He doesn't really mouth at me or anything like that, right? He's kind of understood the gist of things. And now that I've kind of clearly established that with him, that I don't like it in a non-aversive fashion, as he gets a little bit older and as his energy picks up and he gets more rambunctious and more testy and stuff like that, if I need to actually give a correction for it, which I will, right? Inevitably, I'll need to correct for the behavior at some point. It's going to be more clearly understood because I've already set the tone of it, right? So take him to the shop, put him in the crate. Started kind of, finally chilled out after about 30 minutes. Let him out every couple hours, whatever. And for the most part, again, I haven't done anything with this dog aside from have him on a leash and start getting him used to feeling that pressure. And then obviously stick him in a crate when I'm not able to supervise him.
Yeah.
Right. Since he's not 8 weeks old, he's a month older than that, obviously. He could hold his bladder a little bit longer, so I'm not taking him out truly every 2 hours like I would with a really, really young dog. But I am trying to take him out fairly regularly, every 3 to 4 hours or so, He seemed like he was fairly good with getting the concept of once I took him outside going to the bathroom, so that wasn't a huge issue. And then that evening, kept it low-key. We took him in the living room, back-tied him off to a chair with a leash just like we have him right now, and just taught him to essentially be okay with doing nothing. It was a long day, a lot of stimulation and stuff, so he was pretty tired, right?
Yeah.
All right, nighttime, get ready to put him in the crate, freak the fuck out in the crate at night.
Yeah.
Dude, it was legitimately like 30 minutes of freaking out, and then he kind of chilled out, and then I think he woke up again at like 2:30. Freaked the fuck out, right? And then chilled out after like 20 minutes. And I think he did so again in the morning, right?
Oh, jeez.
It was a lot, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? This is the big thing I tell everybody. You sign up for this when you get a puppy.
That's true.
You do.
Is the crate in the same room or a different room?
It's in the basement.
Okay.
Now, so good point with that. So a lot of times I typically will recommend you could just keep it in your bedroom with you, right? And a lot of times it'll help the dog chill out much faster just being in the same place. The way that I kind of typically do things is I'm going to get the dog to adjust to the things I need to get them to do.
Yeah.
Right. So even though it's a lot further away, I will tough through it for 4 or 5 days, just to get past that issue. So it's something I don't have to worry about later on.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of clear that he had some confinement anxiety issues. I don't know if it was necessarily separation related, but the confinement definitely seemed to amp him up quite a bit, right? So first step with all of that, again, just the negative punishment side of things. I'm not going to go right in and start correcting these things. I need the dog to start learning on their own that some of that stuff doesn't work. Yeah. And we saw a reduction in it over the course of the first couple of days, like at work, for example. Like when I crate him at work now, he's pretty silent. I stick him in there. He doesn't really have an issue with it anymore.
Yeah.
He's pretty okay with, and the reason why I say it's confinement anxiety as opposed to separation anxiety is because he's pretty okay if I just leave him be if he's not confined. Like, for example, like when Steve just got here to help with the computer, I had him downstairs, back tied to a chair down there. And we were up here for 15 minutes, and I actually forgot he was down there. That's a me fault thing, right? I kind of forgot he was down there.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, I got to go down and get him. But he was silent, right? He didn't have any issues with it. But the crate, for whatever reason, once he's really sandwiched into that thing and realizes he can't get out or anything, that's what seems to really amp him up with it. So second day, similar structure. The only difference is now I'm going to start tackling some of this stuff head on a little bit. Again, anytime he's out of the crate, he's got the leash on him. I started really looking at, we have to start addressing these stairs. We have to start addressing him just walking in general because he really tried to kind of freeze up when he got that leash on. So worked on walking him up and down the stairs. And same deal, man. He threw a goddamn fit, man. Like, we got to the top of the stairs, and I'm getting him to try to just take one step down. He's freaking out, bucking on it. Finally, I get him one step. It's like, all right, good job, right? Then we get another one. Then we get another one. Then we get another one. And it's like almost like I'm almost like needing to like drag him down these stairs, right?
Yeah.
But again, 14 weeks old already, right? We know that he could physically do this, right?
Yeah.
So we have to start getting him over that hurdle faster. And there's so many people out there that'll be like, take some food and get him to run up and down with the food and this and that, blah, 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 keep it positive. The way that I've always looked at those things is with a young dog, my first goal with a dog is, yes, build some motivation in certain areas, but establish leadership where the dog trusts that I'm going to guide them through safe situations, right? So I need him to understand when he feels this leash and I'm guiding him in a certain direction, that no matter what, he is going to have to do that. And that's especially important with him because I realized as soon as I got him that he was a little bit more timid and scared of certain things. Like I said, the confidence that we saw when he came in for that meet and greet, I think was a little bit more of a facade with the sister there and the foster there and stuff like that, you know? But he definitely does spook pretty easily by stuff.
Okay.
So when you have a fearful dog, it's even more important early on to establish that leadership because that helps you later on when you go to start, say, off-leash stuff with the dog, or you start putting the dog in different situations where you're in public and there's loud noises happening and stuff. And they start trusting when they're scared, they can start checking in with you and that you'll give them